Orianna Brodbeck. She's Belle's mama. And she's just returned from an amazing trip. And rather than giving you the details about it, I want her to tell her story. So here's Belle's mama, Orianna Brodbeck. Belle, yeah. Belle, wag your tail, Belle. Hello, Belle. No, she's not coming up. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, you went on a dream vacation. Where'd you go?
I did. I went to Uganda in Africa, and I was there for 17 days.
And why did you choose Uganda?
I chose Uganda because I wanted to do mostly primates, and I did the gorilla trek, chimpanzee trek, and golden monkey trek. Plus, there's about 8 other different kinds of primates that they have there.
And was this a package trip, or did you plan it yourself?
I actually planned it myself. All the packages that I looked at, they either had some parts that I wanted to do or some parts that I didn't. So I found a company called Oddly Travel. They're actually based out of Boston, and they comprised the package for me. And I was traveling alone, so it was a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So I just hired a guide to take me for the 17 days, pick me up at the airport, and away we went.
And 17 days you were away.
Yes, it was.
And yeah. and you were in Uganda, you say?
Yeah, I flew just Uganda is the only country that I did. So I flew into Entebbe, which is their biggest city. I mean, it's not any city that we can imagine, but it's their biggest city.
And did you have to do anything to prepare for your trip?
Really just since I booked it a year ago, I was just trying to keep in shape because the climb to the gorillas is quite intense. You are climbing a mountain or a volcano, so the trek is actually quite hard on you.
And I think you have to take quite a few shots, am I correct?
Yeah, I had to have yellow fever to enter the country. I had my Hep A and Hep B, and I obviously took malaria pills with me in case of mosquitoes. But honestly, the bugs I didn't get bitten by anything, so it was great.
So when you first arrived in Uganda, what was the first thing that struck you?
The crazy drivers, mostly. Yeah, there's no lines, there's no lights, there's no traffic, crossings for pedestrians. It's just whichever way you go, and there's the roads are really bad, so there's major potholes, and so they just kind of drive around things. And then you have the boda, which are basically motorcycles that take either products or people, more than one. Usually there's 4 or 5 people on a bike. There's certain places, and then they negotiate how much they're going to pay to be moved. But they literally just go in and out. None of them wearing helmets or anything. They actually opened a hospital just for boda riders because they have so many horrible accidents with these guys. So
and you're on a boda with them.
I did get asked if I wanted a boda, and I said no. I think
okay.
I'll pass. Yeah.
So were there any moments in Uganda where you didn't feel very secure?
None at all. I was totally felt safe. The first 2 days actually spent by myself because I wanted an extra couple of days just to kind of get over the jet lag and everything. And I walked around Entebbe all by myself. I went to a couple of conservation areas and went shopping. That they have this funny little mall, but no, totally no problems at all.
So what were some of the memorable moments of your trip?
Well, on one of the game drives that I went to, we kind of came up to an area, and this is in the Queen Elizabeth National Park. It's a huge park that's obviously Queen Elizabeth opened in 1954, and we ran across a herd of elephants, and I saw a female, and she was picking up dirt with her trunk and then flipping it back, and all the dirt was falling on her back, and my guide said, oh, she's doing that to keep herself cool. The dirt falls on her back and it kind of protects them from the sun and the heat. And then I saw a little baby come up beside her, and she was kind of trying to mimic Mama doing it, and the mom was knocking the trunk. No, you don't do it like that, you do it like this. And she showed her, and then I saw the baby do it and actually succeed in flipping the dirt up on her back, and I thought that was kind of neat that I watched an elephant teaching her baby how to cool herself down.
What were some of the things in Uganda, it's obviously not St. Mary's, that you had to adapt to?
I can't really think of anything that was different. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I didn't sleep in a tent. I did have nice accommodations, and I did have my own driver, so I didn't have to kind of share with anybody or anything like that. I mean, as long as you're prepared with your water and your DEET and You know, don't mind getting dirty because the dust on the roads is pretty crazy. So you do get very dirty.
So part of the trip was visiting the mountain gorillas.
It was,
Yeah,
yes.
tell me about this experience.
Well, basically, I had actually arranged to get a habituation trek, which is for gorillas that aren't used to people, because the experience that once you find them is a lot longer. It's actually 4 hours instead of 1 hour. But during my travels, I had talked to other people that had done the habituation, and they were a little disappointed because they're not as used to you, they're not as close. So you don't get the experience I'm sure lots of you have seen on YouTube where they're like literally beside you. And I sort of thought, oh, you know, I had actually paid a lot more to do the habituation trek. It's a lot more, it's twice as much. But I kind of wished that I had done 2 treks, maybe trekking 2 different families. So I had decided to switch from habituation to a regular trek, and I just donated the extra money to the research center. But it was the experience that I wanted, which was being like 4 feet from them. So
4 feet.
Yeah.
Wow. And was there what was their reaction to you when you're 4 feet?
Absolutely none. They just totally ignore it.
Sort of like Belle.
Yeah, I'm used to that. The only part that was kind of interesting where once we finally did track them, we were actually on a slope at about 45-degree angle. Our heels were actually dug into the ground because we were afraid of sliding into him, and he was literally like 4 feet in front of us. This is the silverback, and there are trackers that go ahead of you, and they machete the vegetation as you're going through and up the hill as you're climbing up. And anyways, of course, we're trying to take pictures, and he was kind of in amongst the vegetation, and you know, we're having a hard time focusing because, of course, the camera wants to focus on the leaves. So the tracker just thought, oh well. So he went and he started hacking away at the vinery that was hanging in front of him, and of course, obviously, it didn't impress the silverback because he turned around and he banged on his chest and just screamed at us. And of course, the guide, I guess they're used to them. He just kind of chuckled and did a grunt, and then the gorilla grunted back. In other words, like, back off, buddy. And he did finally turn around, and we got some amazing pictures. But actually, what would have been more funny was to see our expression, because, of course, none of us got a picture of him doing that. We were all so shocked, but it would have been really funny to see our expression with him, because you couldn't have got up and ran. It was...
Some people, you know, the controversy sometimes is that people say, look, if you keep on visiting the gorillas in their natural state, they'll become accustomed to humans and they'll lose sort of their primitive state. How do you feel about that?
Well, these gorillas there is 8 families that are habituated already. It's taken 15 years for them to do this. During this time, they have done a lot of studies on them. But because of the permits that you do need to have to go up to see them, they only take up 8 at a time. Like I said, there's the 8 families that you track, and then the 2 unhabituated gorillas. The money that they bring in is all put towards conservation and research, and it also helps to educate the local people as to why conservation is so important. So it actually, even though it sounds like, yes, we're being intrusive, it is actually saving them. And over the years for the gorilla trekking, the population has actually tripled. So for going from 250 gorillas 20 years ago to about 890.
Wow,
gorillas.
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants to go on such a trip, how do they do it, and how much money should they be budgeting?
Well, Oddly Travel really is an amazing venue. I mean, you can go through other safaris. There's lots of people that do the gorilla trekking. But if you want specific things that you want to see, then you know, there are companies out there that you can easily access, and you just do it. I just did it all on the internet, basically. It cost me a bit more because I traveled alone, so I had to pay, like, hotels were more because I was a single, and I did have just the one driver. On the benefit, of course, then if I wanted to stop and see something, I could see something. And as a matter of fact, for the chimpanzee, I did do the habituation trek, and I was disappointed. I didn't really see them very close. So I added a trek the next day, and I said, I want to do it again, and I did a trek. So I managed to see, you know, again, the chimpanzees were like, you know, 4 feet from me. And
ballparking it, about how much does it cost?
I'd say about $15,000.
$15,000, okay. So what's the next trip on your bucket list?
Well, that was the bucket on the top,
okay.
But I do have a trip planned for Rome in May, and I'm just going to do a bit of traveling till...
Okay, thank you, Orianna.
Yeah, you're very welcome.